Okay, next we have Clem from Autonomies.
Hi. So, thanks for the great presentation. And I think you made the perfect segue to slip into the NFT/crypto topic. So maybe to start with, I'd like to know how many of you here own cryptocurrencies. And I'm just doing that out of education to do some mind mapping with the crowd. So cryptocurrencies, NFTs, owning NFTs, okay. Sold an NFT? Okay, so I get it. We're gradually
better to ask
entering the space. So my presentation is going to be different because I'm not going to walk you through arts or works, but I'm going to be explaining a little bit of the different projects that I worked on in the past and that I'm currently working on. And then because the title of this event, I did acknowledgement question mark. Because the title of this event was NFTs and Metaverse, I thought that it would be interesting to maybe collectively trying to look into how NFTs actually fit into the Metaverse and trying to define a bit what is the Metaverse, because for many people it seems like these are not, very well-defined concepts. And I'm not, suggesting that we will define them, but we can have a little bit of an exploration together. So that's the agenda. If at any point you have a question or you want to make a remark or you want to engage, please do stop me. I will. Can I speak louder? Yes. Is that better? Okay. I'm actually not speaking louder. I'm just closer. So I will go right now. I will try to be short about myself. About me, well, I have kind of a normie background. I studied business administration, economics, nothing really too interesting in my view. But I think back in 2016, I got really hooked by the whole decentralization and Bitcoin topic. So I started writing a bunch of academic papers, and I also started being more and more involved with the local blockchain crypto community in Berlin. Berlin is actually historically involved with crypto because it's here that the first kind of design session of Ethereum took place, to be precise, in the Schlesische store, with the founders, the godfathers of Ethereum. And so, yeah, I think 2018 I got into, participating, organizing, orchestrating a bunch of workshops at ETH Berlin. I also was a contributor of the token engineering, groups, where basically we try to put some kind of a scientific practice into token design for people who launch, tokens. And then I also worked on a bunch of projects, including Nature 2.0, which is about, exploring the idea of self-owned entities to empower biodiversity. And that touches on the topic of DAOs, etc. Okay, so it's 8:30. Yeah, you have my details at the bottom left. I think they are also at the end of the presentation. About Kiko. So currently I work as a product manager for Kiko. I think it's important for anyone not working in Web3 or crypto to know that product management in crypto is actually many different things, because by design, the products that we build are community-centric. So any product decision that you make is actually a decision that's in the hands of the community. So that involves a lot of people management related tasks and things to work on. So my company is primarily a services company, and we consult, we provide engineering services to large cap DeFi project. For those of you who don't know, DeFi stands for decentralized finance. This is actually just there's a whole ecosystem of developers and researchers looking into how they can build, more efficient money markets directly on the blockchain, and the majority of this innovation is taking place on the Ethereum ecosystem. Anyway, so the projects that we consult are, diverse in size and in shape. So we consult for Cello, which is a mobile-first DeFi protocol that is aiming at, bringing further financial monetary inclusion on the planet. Then we also consult for projects like Filecoin, this idea of having decentralized storage solutions, Ocean, which is all about data, Bancor, more traditional DeFi, and the type of services that we provide to this ecosystem really ranges from token design to architecture design to DevOps to a lot of different things really. So I currently work in a specific unit of Kiko, which is the labs. And at the labs, we're really trying to focus on empowering creative communities. So I think as it was rightfully mentioned in the slides before, from the presentation before, Web3 has the capacity or the ability, the potential to really empower creative communities in many different ways. And at Kiko Labs, that's really what we're trying to do, right? I think it's well summed up there. It's written, converting money markets into prosperity. So, as some of you might know, actually as the majority of you know, there's so much money pouring into the space right now, right? And for some people coming from the outside, it might be a bit weird to look at it, whether it's like the whole speculation about NFTs or even DeFi and these things. Well, these signals are signals. And even as a creative, you should try to position yourself within that space so that you can make the most of it. And I think the reality is that if creatives don't, take control and take ownership of these tools, someone else will for you. And here, really, these technologies, I think, give creatives the ability to get back self-agency. So, getting to master how they get to monetize their art and how they get to engage with their audience, and a lot of other benefits. So, at Kiko Labs, that's what we're trying to do. And we do that on at many different levels and with on different projects. So here are a few projects where we actually brought our crypto expertise into the metaverse, so to speak. So on the left-hand side, you have, for instance, a project that I worked on. And actually, shout out to Fabu. I don't know where he is. He's over there. Shout out to you, Fabu. It's one of the guys from the RaveSpace team. Also, shout out for putting this together. It's a super nice venue. So Fabu designed a 3D environment that represents a dojo, a Japanese dojo, that is basically connected to one of our validator. A validator, for those of you who are not familiar with this topic, my apologies, is somewhat of a miner. I think you know what Bitcoin miners are, but that's not relying on proof of work to secure a blockchain network, and it's basically working as a dedicated proof of stake engine. Anyhow, the idea that we try to explore there was to say that we can use part of the funds generated by validators and by this whole economy that supports those crypto ecosystems to fund capital into communities that are in need. So Cello, for instance, is very purpose-oriented, and the idea is that anyone delegating to this validator could then farm a voting token and elect communities to get eligible for universal basic income. So from this work, actually, we started the collaboration with a project called Impact Market. And Impact Market has developed and deployed contracts. Actually, this time, shout out to Aaron in the room, who's been also working on this quite a bit. Awesome engineer. And yeah, so impact market allows the deployment of universal basic income smart contract in communities where people don't have a bank account. So it's very cool, and we work with them, and we are putting together a nice roadmap. You should check them out. Then our involvement with the metaverse got a bit more serious, so to speak, earlier this year in February, where we had the first kind of physical plus virtual exhibition of visual arts happening in crypto voxels simultaneously and in Lisbon at Aroche Studios. So we had a 3D mapping of a physical space where artists got to display their art, and at the same time this art was also being displayed in crypto voxels. Crypto voxels is a very crypto-oriented metaverse, and we had this exhibition going for some time. I think we had about 20,000 online visitors or something like that during this first exhibition. And also part of our work was really to focus on the whole education side of things. So as I mentioned, many creatives, they are not really aware how to use these technologies or where to start. So we've put together a lot of educational material workshops, a lot of sessions, and a lot of physical events to try to bring the local Portuguese Lisbon visual artists, creative scene up to speed with these topics. And the result was really outstanding. So we ended up with, I think, 100. I think over the 2 editions, we ended up with like over 150 visual artists minting their NFTs and engaging with the exhibition in one way or the other. So these things were really like a big success for us. And yeah, again, that's been also the work of APN, Patrick, who's also in the room, which is like an organization that like emerged from this. So out of this all collaborative effort, we managed to pull this off. So shout out to Luminate as well. So NFT metaverse, what's cooking? Okay, so like I said, we had this event tagline, NFT metaverse. What are they about, and how they're compatible? How do they fit? So I want to try to go into a bit of a conceptualization of like NFTs and also definition here, because I think it's always worth going back to the textbooks a little bit. So NFTs, I think majority of you have Googled it already. They stand for non-fungible tokens. And at the end of the day, I'd like to first point out that they are not digital art. They are not polluting particularly. They're nothing else than a technical standard or a technical attribute for something that's very specific. I'm not going to go so deep into the definition of it here. And I would like actually to encourage you to go and to try to document yourself a little bit, because for as long as people just vaguely understand its concept, then they will never really be able to seize its power. And I think here the only power you have if you don't understand it is your curiosity. So you should go and you should start learning about the concepts behind decentralized technologies, the concept behind smart contracts and digital assets. These are like topics of today, but tomorrow they will be omnipresent, most likely in your lives. So get the curiosity to learn a bit, so that you may not be stuck at just one application or use case of NFTs, like visual arts, for instance. Also interesting to note that Collins Dictionary word of the year was actually like NFT. So wow. So NFTs, what is fungibility? What is something that is fungible? Some of you probably know, but typically money is a fungible asset in the form of cash. So if I were to, and I think it's like, to me it's a good example to try to conceptualize what it is, what an NFT is. if I were to come to you and give you a coin, a euro, and I would ask you for a euro and a coin, well, we would swap, and you probably wouldn't mind. You wouldn't be like, oh, no, missing my euro. No, not really, right? Like 1 euro is worth 1 euro. We swap them. There's very thin likelihood that you're particularly attached to the euro you're giving me versus the one I'm giving you. So that's the concept of fungibility, or of cutting something that's fungible. And money, government-issued money by default is fungible, right? 1,000 euros is 1,000 euros. There's no such thing as my turns up 1,000 euros versus your 1,000 euros if we swap them. Well, a non-fungible asset is an asset like, a laptop, you could say, that has stickers on it, or an actual, I don't know, a pair of jeans or something like that. Like any kind of asset that has very unique attributes. And basically, in the crypto world, those assets can be stored, and they can be stored in a wallet, and they can either be a title for owning something, like a certificate, but they can also be a key to unlock specific things. So I'll touch on that a little bit later, but in our case, we're talking about the Autonomies project. We're making use of NFTs as key to download rare content, but they are actually not, pointing to the asset themselves hosted online, whatever. Now trying to define the metaverse. No, actually, I would like to get validation from the audience here. How was the explanation? And I see a thumb up. Oh, thank you. Okay, cool. That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to make sure you walk away with something. Okay, so the metaverse. The metaverse, if we pull the definition from Wikipedia, we read an hypothesized iteration of the internet supporting persistent online 3D virtual environments through conventional personal computing, as well as virtual and augmented reality headsets. Interesting. So I looked that definition up because myself, I was quite unclear, right, about like how to define the metaverse. And the thing that I try to do here is I try to see what exactly do we find in the metaverse that we find in cryptocurrencies, and why do they overlap? And I found that the word persistency here is what is interesting. And I think the reason why cryptocurrencies and NFTs, they fit so well within the metaverse is because of their persistency exactly. So cryptocurrencies and blockchains and decentralized technologies have like many different attributes, but persistency is key and is one of their core attributes. By definition, these technologies will live for as long as the internet lives, for as long as a node will relay, the blockchain, whether it's the Bitcoin blockchain or the Ethereum blockchain. In the context of the metaverse, you can think of something being persistent as something that doesn't go offline, that never goes offline, that just stays here. And I think for value, it's very interesting that the technology or the infrastructure that you rely on is actually highly persistent. So trying to think of cryptocurrencies or decentralized technologies as the infrastructure that can carry value in a persistent way is probably the reason why it makes sense for it to be integrated within the metaverse. Now, if we look further into the definition, I would actually tend to disagree with the idea that the metaverse is by default a 3D environment. And I know here I'm not going to be making friends, but I think that there's good reasons to think that the metaverse could actually be very much 2D. There's no particular reason why an environment where you find persistency in like the value or the exchange that's created, etc., has to be 3D. There's a lot of very successful right now lo-fi, low-tech metaverses that are popping up. So I think, as the definition suggests, this is actually an iteration of the internet, and we can't really tell right now what it will look like when we look at it back, from the future. And so here, I tried to explain a little bit how I see this evolution going with these little arrows. Yeah. The first thing that you see on the left is, Web 2, what people call Web 2. So, and what I like to kind of see as the Internet of Information, where protocols and companies, so protocols are mostly information protocols. They facilitate the transfer of information between machines and between humans, and then companies that take custodianship of this information can then serve different purpose. Facebook, custodianship of your data, offering you services to communicate with your friends. Amazon, custodianship of other type of data, and then banks, and then PayPal, and etc. Kind of like Web 2, and then Web 3, which is really what I'm working on right now. What we're working on is the idea of the Internet of Value, right? So where we say that value per se can be digitally native. So we no longer rely on the real world to create or assess value, but instead we can natively create value in the digital realm. And so these are mostly value protocols. And so for me, really, the metaverse is this idea of putting together information and value protocols, and then see, where we go from there. Was that also informative? Okay. So Autonomies.io. I hope I have some more minutes. So should be okay. Autonomies.io. So Autonomies.io is a very cool project I've been working on, and we've been working on since earlier this year. It's a 2D marketplace for now, and it's probably going to be a 2D environment for some time. But it's really looking at how can we create value for musicians and collectors of music. And I think we started looking at it already back in April or so, and we were asking ourselves that very same question of how can we enhance, not the composability, but how can we enhance the value proposition of NFTs, and not only just have NFTs as being digital certificates of a JPEG or any type of media, but instead having those NFTs as something else, right? And because of my personal interest, and also I think the cultural climate here in Berlin of electronic music, we started looking at how can we make the collector, and how can we bring back value to digital audio files. So quite, in very, very straightforward fashion, how can we make digital audio files rare? So we looked a little bit at different problems that occur right now in the industry, and of course many of these challenges have been decoupled because of the whole Corona situation. But right now, if you're an artist, it's obviously very hard to put out a physical release model. Desperate pressing times if you're putting out records are just crazy long, and most of the time very non-lucrative and expensive, and just a painful process. And then on the digital side of things, well, whether you're touring or you're having a few gigs, but it's very unlikely that you can make a living off the streaming, that you have on Spotify, etc. So direct result for you as a musician is that you're most likely distracted from producing your art or making your art. And on the collector side of things, we get to have collectors who buy music on Bandcamp, Beatport, these kind of platforms, but that at the end of the day, once they have those files locally, they can't really do anything with them. They can't resell them, or they don't get any kind of value from having those files. So here is a little bit of so the response to this for us was to say, okay, what we can do is we can build a set of smart contracts that allows you as a musician to do a few things, where you can basically design off the run of how many editions you wanna allow an audience to download. And also a Minter that allows you to set up collaborators that you work with, where if you get to work with someone on your artwork, or if you get to have a featuring on your album or your single, whatsoever, you get to have revenue split of the revenue that's generated. And also you get to set up your own royalty policy for secondary resale. So essentially what we did was we treated NFTs as keys to locally download high-resolution audio files. And we're pushing this marketplace out towards the end of January, February. And the amount of feedback we got from the electronic music community has been huge. So we are aiming for around 100 electronic music artists that we are curating at first. And on that, we are working with the Ransom Node and Black Artist Database and a bunch of like other curators. And it's going to be great. Let me just do that. So you have a little bit of a walkthrough there. Please don't mind the assets being listed there because they don't represent the actual USD value. Getting messages that I receive that I look like Steve Jobs. All right, yeah. So here you have a view of the dashboard where, so this is the most interesting part. So basically what we really wanted to do is we wanted to design an experience where minting music. So by the way, all of this, for those familiar with L1, L2 issues, is going to be deployed first on Polygon. So that means that if you don't have the cash to right now mint anything on Ethereum because gas price is just insane, we're deploying that on Polygon so that it's quite cheap and eventually we can migrate those assets onto Ethereum. Oh, sorry. Okay. Good. So that's the process of minting. And there, you see basically you just assemble things and you can split revenue roles, and then you can assign collaborators, and you can do just so many great things with that. But so where this leads me and where this is leading us is looking beyond just an enhanced marketplace as a product. But if we look really beyond, I think we can now have a chat about sorry. Oh yeah. Sorry, I was on it. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so if we actually look beyond the simple delivery for this creative community of like electronic music artists, well, there's so many things we can do with crypto, right? Marketplace is just a standalone product, but the challenge that I think we really want to solve is like, how can we create cultural, economic, and social value for the people that take part in those systems? So why cultural, economic, and social value? Well, it's because, yes, I looked up the definition, and do I like definitions? I don't know, but sometimes I like definitions. I'm looking at definitions. This is from how to define a cooperative. And so cooperative, for its members, should be autonomous and should be creating, in some form, cultural, economic, or social value. And I think decentralized systems are a perfect fit to create and deliver this kind of value. So the ambition we have with this project is just not to push out a marketplace, but eventually we want to set up a whole on-chain organization for these members who share the same interest, and we want to provide an economic safety net so that if you push content onto the platform, you directly partake into the revenue generation of the protocol or the marketplace. So you have that security. We want to make sure that everyone is aligned with a common manifesto. So I co-authored the manifesto with Will from the Ransom Note and Ivan Schmager, where we really try to like be as artist-centric as possible in the principles that will guide us somewhat in this journey. And then we can explore many different ways to create, economic upside for the members, not just the marketplace, but currently looking at how to create a series of collectibles that can be redeemed for physical and virtual experiences. Actually, another project that's likely going to happen with RaveSpace, shout out, where we can envision, fan base and communities engaging with artists and redeeming collectibles for guest list to spots or masterclass studio sessions and a whole lot of like other things, just so that we tick those boxes. And electronic music is like one particular community, but eventually the idea is that we can take these learnings and then we can apply them to other type of creative communities to serve their needs. So yeah, that's great. These are just a bunch of partners working on the project. And my details on the right, details of Autonomies on the left. And I take questions, if any.
Hello, hello. Hello. Can you use the mic, please, because we are recording and we would like to hear the answer, the question. Who was asking?
Hi, thank you for your presentation, very informative. So my question is, so you've worked in the project called Kiko, the previous project you were introducing. So what I understood was, you worked in the lab and you tried to do all the education stuff and, collaborate with different museums. But, the project is about designing blockchain and providing, tokenomics design, if I'm not wrong. So my question is how you generate revenue from that, the education stuff you were doing. And the second question is the musical marketplace you were building right now. You are building right now is it a decentralized one, like acting like OpenSea has a fee of 2.5%, and I know it's in the beginning of the building of the marketplace, and what's your vision of it, and what's the advantage compares to other marketplace? I know some marketplace are also focusing on musical productions. So yeah, that's my two questions. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for the questions. To the first question, Kiko is a company. So that means Kiko is offering services to crypto projects for a fee. That fee, is like a consulting fee for where we're being engaged in the different projects. So this, is the services part. And then for the product part, we fund them with services money. And I think, the educational track that we have and that we've put together for creatives, for instance, what you're referring to, was done with no monetization idea at all. It was really just to educate people. Okay. So I know money is everywhere, but this was just educating people, I guess. And then with regards to the marketplace, yes, the marketplace. So the marketplace is fully decentralized. So the everything that we do at Kiko is open source by default. So that means that all the code that we push is available, and you can look at it, and you can change it, and you can fork it, and you can enhance it, and you can comment it, and you can review it, and you can do all the things that open source allows you to do. So we are good on that front. For the ecosystem fee, that's still in discussion right now with the team, but we surveyed the community to try to find out what can be a reasonable fee to have on the network, knowing that eventually that fee is going to be governed by a multisig. So we're probably going to start with like a Gnosis multisig that's going to convert then into a DAO with the idea that all the funds generated by the marketplace are eventually, you know, the property of the musicians and the artists that populate this marketplace. So this is kind of the approach we are taking there. And then how do we want to stage it? I think I tried to answer that or to explain that, but maybe I wasn't clear enough. So the first release as a product that we're having is a marketplace, but eventually what we want to offer is a DAO infrastructure for these musicians to govern that ecosystem. So anything, you know, whether it's a new feature, whether it's the introduction of, you know, a curation, decentralizing the curation process, for instance, is also going to be a good part of it, where we're going to have built-in reputation and identity within the system based on, you know, non-transferable tokens and these kind of things. So the idea is to bring a suite where musicians can you know, publish their content, engage with the community, engage with their fan base, and start playing around and really getting self-agency. Like that's the purpose. I hope.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
I'm not gonna ask.
Okay.
The music file is the final product as a consumer. If you're a collector, you're gonna collect that file locally. As a musician, you can expect way more than just the marketplace. The question was, is the marketplace going to be the final and only product? No. The answer is no. If you play around with the marketplace, you're most likely then going to have also a governance interface where you'll be able to basically decide the future of the product, which is something, you know, crypto decentralized systems offer all the time. If you're an early participant into a product, why wouldn't you be also a shareholder, right? These are things, these are opportunities really that creatives should, you know, understand. And again, I'm going back to this thing, but creativity is really, really, really key here. So curiosity, creativity, oh yeah, explore, please. And yeah, going back to this. Okay, one question, and I think after that, probably is going to be a bit.
So I have. Can you show the partners first of all? The second question is, like, how do you plan to curate the content that is on the platform? So, is it how do you plan to curate? And third, if you could say a little bit more about Universal Basic Income project on blockchain, would be very interesting. Thanks.
Okay, so curation. The curation, we're starting with a centralized curation. So, you know, like the majority of crypto projects, you don't necessarily want to go all in decentralized at first, because it can prevent you from doing many things. And in this space, you need to remain agile in like how you build up a new feature, how you respond to the market, and many other things. So the idea for us is to gradually move towards, you know, full decentralization. Currently, in our design, for instance, the audio files themselves won't be hosted on a peer-to-peer decentralized, you know, storage solution like Filecoin or so. So that means we're going to use, you know, S3 buckets. But, you know, ultimately, nothing prevents us from decentralizing fully the architecture. Regarding the curation, you can come to us. But right now, we are covering a wide array of electronic music subgenres through like these different curators that we have. And part of our, you know, manifesto is to acknowledge that, you know, we have to be as inclusive as possible in the genres and the artists that we pick. Because today, even just being aware of the systems and engaging with the systems is a privilege. And so for that, we really try to like think also of things like the universal creative income, when, for instance, there would be a creator fund funded by the revenues from the marketplace that would be used to onboard people who are not native to this ecosystem into an educational track and to just push content on the platform. So how do we decentralize that? That's a very interesting question. I think my last 2 cents or my last thoughts on that is that you can actually decentralize the curation of content via a non-transferable rep token. So that is an identity that you give to the people who bring activity to your network. and you give them a rep token that's non-transferable. So you give them an identity and you give them the credit to bring other people on chain, and they can do that only if they perform specific type of action, like driven by volume or by governance activity. But basically, you want to record the good economic agent or the good agent within your system by giving them this power. So if the first artist batch that we have is solid enough, we can basically give them the key to curate themselves. And I think this is a scenario where like many DAOs and many systems bootstrap themselves, where they start with like an invite-only kind of setting, and they grow from there. Yeah, but the artists there will be really, really, really cool. Like some very crazy artists. Yeah.
Hey,
and
hello. Sorry, I have a question. From a technical point of view, how does this work with this autonomies thing? I mean, if I'm the creator, I upload my music file, right? But what does my client, my customers do? Do they buy this NFT, and do they get this NFT in their wallet, and then they are allowed to play this file only in this website, or how does this work? Is it like digital rights management, or?
No, it's not digital rights management. The file is downloaded locally. So the setup is a traditional Web3 wallet that you use. So you would have, like a MetaMask. The first like default wallet, obviously, we're using is a MetaMask account. You as a musician have MetaMask. The collector has also MetaMask. You sign a transaction during your minting. That means like you push out content, and we give you self-agency on that. We are not custodian. The only thing that we're doing as a service for you is that we are hosting that content. But the private public key, all of that is completely managed by you. So you're the creator of the contract, and we are not. We're just facilitating the deployment through the front end. And then as a collector, what you do is that NFT that you have, like I said, is different than like what you see, for instance, on OpenSea, or what you see on Foundation, or what you see on SuperRare, and what you see on traditional marketplaces. Is the NFT in these cases most of the time is a certificate that points to a media. So you would have a certificate on the blockchain, and that certificate would point to a URL, and that URL would display an image, like this yellow image, Hashmask over there. Interesting, these things.
But there will be only one user that can buy this NFT for this song, for example, right? Or can there be multiple users buying the same NFT?
It can be multiple users buying the same NFT, yes.
Okay, so how is that non-fungible?
Because you can sell the key for different value, and you can hard code like any different file to it. It's like the visuals, you have series of them as well, right? It's not like the contract per se gives you with like unique attributes for, what this asset actually is. So it's like saying, one audio file is very distinguishable from another one. Does that make sense?
Sorry. One question, what happens when I sell it? Do I have to delete the file I downloaded originally?
No, you don't. You don't have to do that. So there is still like this idea of scarcity control that we want to enforce with like tokenomics. So in practice, or theoretically, if you have a file downloaded locally, we need to create incentives for you not to leak it. Because right now, it is the case that if you are to buy content on platforms like Bandcamp and Beatport, you're most likely able to find them as well on platforms like SourceSeek, etc. On these platforms, though, you still have communities that define scarcity layers for content. So if you're really looking for a super rare rip of a vinyl or these kind of things, most of the time they're likely going to be protected via a lock, and you can only engage, in a physical trade for a digital item. DJs most likely know that, right? Like super rare rips are actually very hard to get, and you can only get them by trading or these kind of things. Once you have it locally, theoretically, you can sell back your key to the market, and you can set up a price for it, and someone can ping you on whether they want to get it or not from you. But the idea is that the NFT that you mint, or the key that you mint, is unique for a specific quantity, but it only allows to retrieve one particular file, right? So this is what is meant, I think, here, what might create confusion for you in like, how is this non-fungible? The non-fungible is like the idea that the key can just allow you to retrieve one unique file at one unique endpoint.
Hello? Hello? Okay, yeah. So thanks so much for speaking. If you have any more questions, we're going to have to, you'll have to just approach him and ask, because we need to kind of keep things moving along for a bit.
Yeah.
So thanks so much. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, we're just going to take about like a 10-minute break so that people can grab a drink, use the washroom, all those things you need to do. Okay, Consti, come do your job. Thank you.